unlocking freedom in nature. So, or like Lori said, greetings. So, and
Wherever
hi,
you are.
Lori, and hi, Angela.
Hi, I am so happy to be here another Tuesday. Tuesday morning for us, but it doesn't matter when are you watching this and where you are in the world. We are happy you joined us. We have Angela here, and she is an amazing coach, and we are excited to hear more from her today.
We are. So, I was just speaking with Angela here. She lives in a beautiful area up in British Columbia. So, but I'm gonna let her we're gonna hear Angela's story today. And she's gonna tell us a little bit about where she's from, where she's grew up, kind of the whole story that's led her to where she's at today. So welcome, Angela.
Good morning. I just wanted to draw attention that today is National Truth and Reconciliation Day, and that's why I'm wearing orange today. It's actually not a color I wear all the time, but today is a special day, so I just wanted to start by saying that, and by giving a land acknowledgement to where I do live, which is Osoyoos, BC, in the southern Okanagan, and I work and play in the Similkameen area, and it is a beautiful area here, and so it's just a great place to be here. I did not grow up here. I am a transplant, like many people, to Osoyoos area. I came from the Lower Mainland, so I grew up in Surrey, BC, and I lived there for much of my childhood, my adolescence, until I got to university.
So Surrey, BC?
Surrey, BC.
Surrey, BC. And where's that? Kind of give us an idea where that's at.
So Vancouver City, it's a city outside of Vancouver.
Oh, okay.
Probably about 45 minutes on a good day.
Okay, that's a beautiful area as well.
Yeah. So that's where I grew up, and then I went to university in Langley, and Abbotsford, and ended up moving out into the valley. And the valley is about an hour and maybe a half from the city on most days, and that's where I grew up. And then I lived there, got married, raised a family, and lived there up until 2020, and then moved up here in the midst of COVID.
Awesome. So kind of tell us a little bit what probably might have led you up to what you do now. So how did you do art and stuff when you were in high school or?
So no, actually, I wasn't an artsy person. I was very crafty and imaginative, and it led me to working with children. I started working with children early on in my career, and I went to become an art therapist because of my work with children, and I knew it was a modality that would work well for them. But I had no idea what inviting art into my world was going to do. And
Right. I have found art as, like you said, a huge helps with so many children's projects because I've done it and taught it before with children that have gone through lots of abuse and stuff. It's amazing how it opens them up. So, how did you find your love for working with children? I guess would be this. We just kind of want to hear what your story is. What led you to.
I think my love of children came very early on. I felt very loved myself as a child, and I think that draws you to also give that back when you recognize it. And so I felt like I wanted to make sure that children felt loved like I did. And so I had some very strong individuals in my life that gave me that. And I also had a very strong spiritual connection that was from a very early age for me. And so that really drew me to have a mission to help children. And eventually that grew to an understanding to help families, because to help children, it's important to be there for their families because they're their framework for life. And when you help children, it's very limited if you're only there with the child themselves, because their whole world is outside of that time with you, and that's really what allows them to have a greater sense of self, is when the people closest to them are have the skills and ability to shine back to them their goodness and everything that they are.
That's very cool. So, Angela, so crafts is what started that connection with children, crafts, or some kind of um, project that involved you connecting with children through crafts and art.
Yeah, I worked in a school district, and I worked supporting children with disabilities and severe behavioral challenges. And there was one little girl, and she was in grade 2, and she was just having a really hard time. She had a lot of lack in her life. Unfortunately, she came from poverty, and she had a lot of siblings to share her spaces with at home, and a single mom, and she was in an inner city school. And so I needed to have breaks in the classroom. So that was one of the things that we would do, is I would just set up an easel. And I wasn't an art therapist at the time, and we would just do painting every day that would give her a break. And there was themes that would emerge in her work that were really curious to me, and I didn't have any training yet, and so that made me curious. And I ended up getting a degree in child and youth care, to help children and families, but then it was after that I went on to become an art therapist.
That is also, those are the stories we like to hear. Those stories where there's breakthroughs. And what was your most memorable, I don't want to say successful, but if that resonates, story in terms of how is it that the art or whatever you were doing with a child helped that child open up or realize something good for them?
Lori, that is such a hard question to answer, because I have so many amazing, amazing opportunities to witness people's work, of all ages, not just children. And but when you say that, I guess one of the things that really stuck with me was a process that I went through with a teenager. She had an eating disorder, and it was, pretty entrenched, and she was quite unwell. And she was on the cusp of having to go to the hospital because she was so unwell. And we were able to work with her through the art, and her to see the mystery of herself that she wasn't able to get in touch with through her mind, and to be able to move through some of the barriers that were causing her to feel like she had to have control through her eating, and manage her anxiety and challenges through eating, through withholding her eating. So she actually had a great recovery, and we had a whole art portfolio for her that she would go through with me, and we would have these art reviews that were really powerful, because that's when she would see inside of herself what was that she needed to connect with. And she had had a lot of difficulty connecting with a therapist before, but I was able to step back and allow her to have that reconnection with herself through the art. And that's what actually, I think, made the difference in her life.
Well, I know
Wonderful.
that talking with other therapists and psychiatrists and stuff, they use nature and art quite a bit anymore for therapy, because they see the results,
Yeah.
and that, which tells parents or anybody else that when you do art or creative things with kids or in families, it's good for us as well, or going out in nature. I'm curious to hear more about your butterfly release.
That's a newer project, and that's we've done that for 2 years now. So I look forward to doing it again this year, and uh, being able to host these little butterflies in greater capacity. So this year we released 35 butterflies, and we only had two that we just put back on the land that we didn't see fly away. But there was, yeah, it was pretty incredible to see the kids, because this year they were able to release them themselves, whereas the first year I did the releasing, but they've seen it before. I've got beautiful pictures of them holding on to on their finger the butterfly, just sitting on their fingers, and just the look of wonder in their eyes. And so for days later, the kids will be looking for butterflies that have flown away and saying, "Hey, there's our butterfly. It's still here." Um, or, anytime they see one, they wonder whether or not it's one of ours.
Can you, for the benefit of our audience, can you expand a little bit and give us a background of how this project started? Is it a project that you created or founded, or is it something you joined, another organization you joined? Can you give us more details because it sounds amazing.
Sure. It was an idea that I had that I wanted to bring in transformation in a visual way with the kids through nature because I very much respect and love nature and know that it's reflected everywhere around us. And so that's a natural way to bring it indoors. So there's a company in Ontario that has little caterpillars that you can order. And so they send this little caterpillar kit to you, and depends on how many you want, but in each container there were 5 caterpillars, and the food is all at the base of the container already, and it's covered and sealed so that they can get what they need. And so they will cocoon inside of this little container. It's super easy. And once they cocoon in there, you take off this little paper and you just hang it inside of a mesh container, bigger container that they're able to fly in. So the kids saw that from the very beginning to the middle and to the end when we released them. And so it was just really magical for all of us to be able to be a part of that. I would say stewards of nature and also witnesses of just the amazingness of it.
Wonderful. And these
Butterflies are
kids,
amazing.
and is this in a school or
Yes.
just your private coaching? Or
I
okay.
have it in my office, but this
Mhm.
year we also moved them as they got flying around. We moved them into the classroom so the kids could observe them. But they
Wonderful.
learned all sorts of things, They learned about how they protect themselves and that they even shake in their cocoons when they're feeling anxious about, their surroundings. So I think they get to have a connection with the compassion for animals and nature, insects that don't have necessarily the ability to fly away. And so then
Well,
they want to protect. That nurtures their empathy.
I think that's awesome. I just know it's like we used to do property management down in Eugene, and one of the things that kids like the parents want to always watch their kids, as you know. And there's some parents that are great parents, and other kids parents they just let their kids do whatever. And these kids, we go and one time we catch them, they like rip out brand new flowers and tear up flower beds, right?
Mhm.
So my punishment for them was make them replant.
Mhm.
And when they had to replant, which is not hard, right? It was amazing, just, or when you teach a kid how to plant a seed, how much more they care about plants. And
Mhm.
then once they planted those flowers and started helping water and fertilize and stuff, they didn't let anybody else go and tear up their plants.
Yeah.
And it was the best way to get them involved because when a kid see that and kind of like the cocoon and stuff, when they actually get to experience working with animals or working with plants, nature, and seeing those trees, there's like you said, what do you? I'm trying to look for the right word. It affects them, immensely and enforces empathy. I
Yes.
think for our land and stuff, I always laugh because I'm like, yes, I am kind of a tree hugger because I love my trees, and it's like, yeah, if they're diseased or dying, then it's like, okay, let's. I can understand taking those down, or if there's too much shade, but nothing upsets me more when I go and I see clear cuts, and they've destroyed all these trees, and they might leave one tree here or there, And there's all these good trees on the floor, and it's because of the way they log anymore, because they use machines to save time, and it actually affects 30, at least 30 other jobs because they're using machines now instead. But it affects not only other jobs, it affects all the other trees in the forest. And there's nest and there's all this other stuff in there,
Hmm.
as we know. And so, it's like, yeah. And my husband used to log, and my brother's logged. But when I see what fellow bunchers do to the forest, that it upsets me because I feel for the trees.
But Angela, like you said, yes, and Tammy, empathy. Empathy is big, but also I hear that butterflies go through a lot of work to break through that cocoon. And I hear there's also a good metaphor when it comes to butterflies and resiliency, right? And transformation also. So I can imagine you were able to, other than the biology and the process, right? Scientific process of it, likening it to personal development, which is my passion, that those comparisons and those lessons, I'm sure, are amazing. We have somebody watching live in our Facebook group. Hello, hello to Sandra Crook. She is submitting a question for you, Angela and Tammy, all of us nature lovers. How do we, and your artists, how do we tune into the artsy side of ourselves in the garden? And if you see Sandra's front yard, I don't know why she's asking this question, but okay. It's beautiful. It's super artsy. She likes cottagey and like wild organic style, and it's just amazing. When my kids were little, they absolutely love being in the garden with me. So thankful. But she's just wanting to know how to tune into the artsy side of herself in the garden.
Well, there's so many ways that you can do that, and it sounds like you're already finding your muse in the garden. But I think for anybody else that might be listening, it's a great question for us to ponder. I think that there's many ways, and it depends on who you are as a person and what really is your vibe. Some people like to, you know, do things in the garden that are going to be creative in of themselves. They decorate the garden with creativity. They think about the people that are maybe shared in the garden that maybe are on the other side. I think about my grandma when I'm in the garden, and that's part of my creativity. I think about what she would put in the garden, and there's that whole conversation that I have with her when I'm there. So there's that small unseen that other people might not notice. You bring those things back into the home, which is one of the things that I'll be doing at my work with the school. Is I've got a flower press, so we'll be doing art with flowers, and pressing them, and so there's that whole process, and the waiting, and the you know working with nature, and being careful and delicate with things with nature, and I think that those are the ways that we integrate just the beauty of nature and the respect for nature, and then while working with it, you come out with maybe a card for somebody that has this beautiful dried flower that's been pressed and taken time and process, and you pass it on, and other people get to enjoy it. So I think anytime we invest in creativity and can share it with others that inspire them, I think that that's a beautiful, beautiful
We
way.
we've
Uh,
had
I,
10 tips for over the summer episode, and maybe we can link it here in the comments. I'm curious to know what Adriana Vela and then also Lani will answer to these questions. And feel free to post your answers here, because I'm sure this is your answer, Angela, and it was a beautiful answer. But I'm sure there's many, many other ways to get artsy in the garden. I know
I
Adriana.
want to reply to this one.
Yes, yes.
Well, Sandra, I want to see photos of your garden sometime. I would love it if you would share. I love it when our guests here and everybody, our followers share your photos. I love that. There's so many ways, like Angela said, that you can get creative. Just planting. Make sure, of course, that they're good plants to plant together, but you can add flowers like marigolds and different things intermix with your vegetables and stuff, which I'm sure you are aware of. And then also, besides doing cards, like Angela suggested, and you can take photographs because it's amazing what you can see, or do drawings of the different herbs or plants or blossoms. Also, flower arrangements, when you bring it in. And then you can also get creative with the veggies and herbs that you bring in for your dishes when you're cooking.
Mm.
Or on your plate, there's like so many ways that you can be creative. And it's kind of like when I make, say, coleslaw, you'll slice, you can use red cabbage to add some color to it, or you can use a little bit of carrots. So when you make your foods more appetizing by just adding a tiny bit of a different color, that's being creative. So those are just some ideas.
Yeah, and Sandra has beautiful ivies crawling on top, through the trees. She has a swing in a beautiful tree, and there's a lot. So I'm excited to see what our audience replies and what other comments and ideas you have, and even questions too. So Angela, so now that you fast forward to working with children and teenagers, what is it that you're doing currently?
Um, so currently, for me, myself personally, I go out on regular hikes and I love to be at the beach. And um, now that it's getting colder, I'm looking forward to doing snowshoeing and skiing. So I do like to spend a lot of time outdoors when I'm not working.
Stay busy and active
Yeah.
in nature. That's great. And when you work, right, quote unquote work, so it is the art with the teenagers and in the school district, is that what led you to the next thing when you decided to become an art therapist, or how else did everything evolve?
So I became an art therapist and I worked for many years as an art therapist. Then I went back and I got my master's degree in clinical counseling, and I had my own company. I still have that, the Family Hope Clinic. Uh, Worked in Surrey with a variety of people pre-COVID in person only. And I also had a bunch of students that would come and work with me and with our team. And then eventually I went to the university and started teaching at the university. Um, Students who were wanting to become clinical counselors and art therapists. And I did clinical supervision for them. And now I am online a lot since COVID, and also in the school, in an Indigenous school in the South Okanagan. And that keeps me pretty busy. I see people all across BC, and I do offer art therapy online. So that's with adults as well as children and youth. And yeah, so that's where I'm at right now. I used to offer a lot of retreats in the past. Retreats are something very special to me. That's a blend of being able to bring in nature, bring in art, and reflective process in a really comforting way for people. So I'm looking forward to that. I've got some retreats that I will be having planned in the near future. And yeah, it's a great way for people to tune into themselves in a condensed amount of time and have that time set aside so that they can really have transformation in a short amount of time and feel inspired. Because really getting going is something I think that is difficult when people are imagining what does transformation look like. And I think that it's those small choices that we make every day that add up. And then we look back and we see, oh, there's some huge changes here. I didn't realize that was happening to that degree.
Changing those
Wonderful.
daily habits, right?
Hmm.
Habits.
And a retreat is just the perfect container, is also what I call it, because it's safe, it's intimate, and in however you have 3 days, 5 days, it's just a different setting where the intensity of that time that is personalized to have uh, personal development and to share with each other. You realize you're not alone. You're not in this four walls, an office, sharing your story or whatever.
Mhm.
You're with a group that is like-minded, that is not non-judgmental, in a beautiful setting. I mean, imagine you probably have, as much as you love nature, like Tammy and I are planning our retreats in beautiful destinations. It's a perfect combination and setting and setup for you to let go of what no longer serves you. This is a little bit descriptive, but the way a retreat organizer that I attended said, this is a safe container. And
Mhm.
then whatever your body is ready to expose, because I don't want to say the other word, we're gonna catch here. So like we digest food, but we also digest emotions, experiences, and sometimes our body is ready to let them out. And whether that's in the form of expressing yourself, something that it was very deep inside of you, you never dared to say or express out loud, and because it got stuck right here,
Yeah.
a retreat is the place for you to go and let it out. Let it out. And I know, complex beings, we're complicated, and there's layers and layers that we need to peel off. But if you feel life has hit you hard and you haven't given yourself the opportunity to take time away for this, it is important for you to consider it. And it's different from a family vacation. It's
Mhm.
different from you going away all by yourself, because here you're gonna be guided, you're gonna be supported, and it's just a different experience that I have learned to appreciate. I have gone to many enough retreat experiences that have made a huge difference in my life. So
Well,
thank you
and
for
like
bringing that up.
yeah, and like you said, Lori, I was listening to our coach talking the other day, and I was telling Daryl this yesterday on our on our trail adventure that we went on. But we have to get away. When you're surrounded by family or friends all the time, you and even though you love them, you need to get away in order to think. It's nothing against them. And you need to remember this for your own family members that sometimes they need to get away from you. We all need it because sometimes just that break, and like Lori said, you go to this other group that doesn't even know you, but they're like minded, and you learn something new, you develop new habits. It's a release, especially in nature. There's just so much that you can learn, just from all the things like Angela shared, just from like even the butterflies. There's those little things, but you need to get away
And
in
I
order to
always tell my
recognize what you
family,
need.
yeah, I always tell my family, I always come back a better person. It's an investment on for me, for myself. And thank you, Angela, for being part of the solution, for also offering these amazing retreats. And I can't wait to hear what you come
Thank
up
you.
with.
Thank you.
So So you still do your retreats. You're going to be doing those retreats and you do the butterfly release. There was something else I was looking at and I was like, what? I was going to ask you. I just forgot my question for you, Angela.
That's okay. So I wanted to say about, the butterfly, the container. I really do think that when you go on retreat, it's very similar to being in a cocoon. And it takes time for things to unfold. And when we're in our day-to-day life, it is hard for us to sometimes take the time, take the pause to reflect, to notice things in our bodies that we don't necessarily regularly notice. I find in yoga that that's my place to notice details that I'm not paying attention to any other way. I mean, for me, yoga was a huge transformation, and led to a lot of other things. So anytime you've got body, art, and music, and
Nature.
creativity, and nature all wrapped into one place where you are just taking pause, magical things happen.
Absolutely. I have hosted a retreat, and we did yoga in a fort in the capital of Puerto Rico in San Juan, overlooking to the ocean. And that was magical, magical, magical. So we love having you, Angela. The time goes by super fast when we're having fun. Tammy, is there any other questions you
Yeah.
have?
So what is it that you do volunteer work? And whenever we serve and help others, I mean, it's amazing what we get in return. It's not like we're expecting anything in return, but when we do volunteer to work, it helps us.
So volunteer work, I have had a whole bunch of different things that I've done. I'll just talk about just in general. I have worked a lot in the mental health field and done a lot of volunteer work there. But one of my most favorite things that I did when I was volunteering was I supported the um, seal rescue with the Marine Mammal Rescue Center at the aquarium. It was totally out of my dearth, but it was because my son had an interest in maybe becoming an oceanographer. And so I thought, okay, well, this is a great opportunity. We'll do it together. So there was this pilot project that they had at the aquarium. And so they had to interview everyone, and we got chosen of a small handful of people. And so we actually went and worked with rescuing and releasing our rescued seals that we had worked with and supported for weeks and weeks over the summer. And so it was an incredible experience for my son and I to be able to watch those little seals that came in so emancipated and literally on death's door.
Mm.
And we went through many stages to save them, and then they were released off the back of a beautiful boat in the ocean and were tagged so they could keep track of them. And it was, yeah, several of them we watched get released. And I even held one in my arms. He got out of his little container when I was cleaning his pool out, and I had to pick him up and carry him, and he was just like a little dog, a little pup who was really crazy.
Amazing. Sandra Crook is saying that the best therapy in the world is when it includes art and nature. And I imagine that's so memorable for your son. Never, never forget that time with you, that
Yeah.
time connecting with those precious creatures. Amazing. And you collaborating into their well-being. That is wonderful.
That
Thank you,
sounds like
Lori.
so much fun.
Yeah.
Thank you
Anytime we
for
get to do
doing
things
that.
like that with family and our close loved ones, I think it just magnifies the magic of it all. So
And I can
Yes.
see it in your face, your smile, your eyes are just,
yeah,
yes, that's wonderful. I hope you took or somebody took a lot of pictures, especially when you were holding the seal. And of course, like Tammy says, feel free to share in our group anytime.
thank you,
Those
Lori.
memories are wonderful.
Thank you.
Yes, we love it when you have those kind of stories and want to share that because it just puts a smile on all of our faces, right? We love it because something positive, like Trish shared a beautiful quote this morning. Thank you, Trish. I appreciate you sharing those beautiful quotes at least once a week. I love that. So thank you.
And we have in our group people with health situations and conditions where they are not able to go out in nature a lot. And just watching a video reel or looking at a picture, that brings you joy, I'm sure, if you have been stuck, or even the weather sometimes doesn't allow us to go out and appreciate nature or be in direct contact and connection with it. So those, and then I haven't had that experience with the seals. So I would love to kind of go through that experience vicarious, through you and through those pictures that I see. And that's what happens when people travel and they share. There's some people that share and they document it so well that it's just like as if I'm even there. But so that's another great reason for us to share what we go through, because through our experiences, others can have joy and get a little piece of what they are not able to do.
And Lori, so many people say, I've heard it so many times, I'm not artistic or I'm not creative. And when you use your camera, that is art. That is creativity. You're just showing people through your eyes. And so I 100% agree with you. People, if when you're out, take as many photos as you can. You can always delete them later, what ones you don't like, but really it is a creative process.
And that's the only
Absolutely.
reason you take your phone besides emergencies is to take photos on
Not
your
to be
walk.
distracted, right? Not to be distracted.
That's
Because
what
I take
motivates me
my
up a
phone
hill.
all the time and I'll be sharing some photos from yesterday's adventure here. But yeah, because I had to put my phone aside because I was scrabbling boulders yesterday. And I needed a hand to hold on to rocks so I didn't flip over backwards or slide down. So it's always interesting.
That's great, Tammy. I took my dog on a couple of hikes recently, and he's just a little pom, and he's absolutely loving it. But there's times that I just have to pick him up, so when I'm scrambling, he's like squeezed in my arm. It's kind of fun.
So Trish is saying that you have a very soothing voice. I agree.
Thank
Very
you.
peaceful and calming. And your smile is amazing, especially knowing that you have made a very huge difference in a lot of people's lives. I just love the fact that you've been able to do the counseling and also train others and mentor them into that process. We definitely need that. Mental health is an issue out there, is a reality, and we need very grounded, good people out there helping others that are going through these trials, which I'm sure that's considered an art too, to have the patience. Listening is a skill and a craft that I'm sure you've needed to polish through all these years. Listening to what is said, listening to what is not said too, and be intuitive to discern those words that are not spoken or see beyond what the person's trying to articulate, right? Um, and get a feel so you can be a gentle guide into in these people's lives. So thank you so much for your service doing that, training others. So what's in
Thank
for
you.
you now, looking forward? Any special projects other than more retreats? Anything that you're excited about at the moment?
Yeah, thank you for asking, Lori. I'm just finishing up a chapter that I've been um, invited to write in a an association book that will go across to supervisors in Canada and beyond to help them to. So the chapter is that I'm writing is about interventions. So I've incorporated art, nature, um, and creativity into this chapter, as well as an
Wonderful.
Indigenous perspective of art that an Indigenous artist who's across Canada known, Sharifa, she's going to make these beautiful art images, not for anybody to, not for them to look at and to copy or to try and understand in relation to an intervention, but for them to get the good medicine from just observing it and taking in what comes to them from observing it. And to me, that is the power of art as medicine. So I'm really looking forward to her incorporating into that chapter. And I'm also writing a book. So I'm looking forward to getting more into that, but I have to finish my chapter first before I move into this next project. So I've got a
Pri
few things on my burner, but there's side
Priorities,
jobs,
huh?
right?
Priorities. That's so good
Yeah,
that you're being very disciplined.
yeah. I have to keep them side jobs because I've got my jobs in the day to day, and they're very important to me. So
Totally get it. So Lori and I are the same way. We have like all these different priorities, and I have been taking time off to go and do my adventures to get photographs for art pieces that I can work on during the winter seasons. So
oh, that's beautiful. I love it.
Yeah, I have an accountability partner and she keeps me very straight. And then she's like, wait, another project or is this for this and that and that? And I'm like, no, that's another joint venture. No, that's for me, for my own practice. And she's like, you're gonna need to sit down and describe all of these for me. But that's what happens when we find that we have so many passions and we have purpose and we want to offer and deliver and show up into the world. So I'm excited for you, Angela. Thanks for sharing.
Thank
Yeah,
you. Lori, can I add to that for a sec?
yeah.
My thesis was in self-care and the professional helper. This was way back when I was doing art therapy before self-care was even like a thing for professionals. It was more of like just a self-help thing. I didn't have the respect. But one of the research pieces that came out of that was that diversifying for practitioners, for people who help others is really important. And so people may think, oh, you've got so much going on. Why do you do so much? Don't you want to sit still? But really it is a top of mind for me, is that diversifying in all these different areas is what actually gives me joy, what actually gives me the energy to come back and do
Yay!
mindful work. So
I'm
So
not
that means
crazy.
we're not crazy. We're all not crazy. There's some
no,
scientific
yes,
background supporting all this. Okay. Uh,
Awesome. I love that.
yes, and they say busy people are the ones that make it happen because they're doers. They're doers. They're active participants. With me, it's just a matter. I learned from you. Thank you, Angela, because you're like, I can't work on my book until I finish the chapter. So that's very important key element, even though we have all these projects and it's good. Finishing something
yes,
before the
yes.
next thing, and the next thing is what I need to implement more. So we might need to invite you back to share a little bit of
Thank you.
that for all these creatives here. We are creators, we are creative, and we are always wanting to add more to our projects that we already
So
have.
true.
We create lots of projects.
Hmm.
Yes.
Anyway, I know I
Vision.
do. I have a list of projects.
But we are just so happy that we had you, Angela. Thank you so much for your goodness, for your how much you are shining in the world, and your brightness, your smile. And we want to wish you the best in everything you're doing, in all those projects, and
Thank you.
keep going with those butterfly experiences that you offer, literally and metaphorically. They are a great project you do. I see that now in a new light. Have always been inspired by the beautiful creatures of butterflies, but this just takes it totally at a new level. But thank you so much for being here. Thanks to the audience. Tammy, if you have
I
uh,
just want to say thanks
final
for
remark.
being here with us, Angela. And of course, we want to have you back. And I want to thank our audience for being here. We love it that you check in. Be sure to invite friends and family. Our group's growing and we love that. And if you ever have any questions, ideas, suggestions, direct message us. We're always listening. So thank you so much. And make sure to go and check out our website, unlockingfreedominnature.com, where we have adventures and our guest list and links to our YouTube videos. So there's a lot there. So thanks again for being here and hope you guys have a wonderful week. And if you get the chance, go outside and enjoy it.
And if Angela has some final remarks, this is your
Thank you
moment,
so
Angela.
much, Tammy and Laurie. It is a pleasure to be here, and it's a little nerve-wracking for me to be visible in this way. It's a new way, but I know it's a way that I need to work on. So I thank you for the opportunity to practice and to be able to speak about some of the things that happen behind closed doors that I don't talk about publicly so much. So thank you so much, and I really appreciate it, and I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful time today and beyond
Thank
in
you.
nature and in art.
Showing up, Angela, showing up. We need you.
Exactly.
The world needs your light.
Yeah, it was our honor too. So thanks again. Hope you guys have a wonderful week. Bye now.